Testing, testing, testing. Testing, testing, testing. I cannot touch this microphone because if I do, this. Let me try. Testing, testing, testing. Oh, got it. It's still connected. Testing, testing, testing. Okay. Mhm.
All right, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right, cool.
Let me turn my headphones down a little bit. Okay, cool. we
How
are
you
we're,
doing, man?
we're live. I'm okay. I'm doing a lot better than I have been, and it's nice. I guess it's nice to be snowed in. I started to get kind of stir crazy.
Yeah, honestly, I pulled a muscle in my back, and I'm too stupid to take a day off when I get
Mm.
hurt. So a snow day sort of forces me to to
I
stay
get lucky
home.
on some of these things. Yeah, I get
Yeah.
rain days when I'm supposed to be doing my like. I still do some labor type stuff on my off days where I say I will, and I get lucky sometimes where I get a rain or other thing intervenes, and I can like catch up on much needed sleep because regardless of what I'm doing for a living, I just I mean it's hard to keep up with enough sleep and rest.
Yeah, I don't do
Well,
well if
sleep.
I don't sleep.
Yeah,
So yeah, I need to get my full 8 hours.
yeah, for sure.
Can you hear background noise?
Nope, and I've got monitors up. No, I don't hear anything.
Okay, cool. Hey, do you mind if I do the intro?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
let me try my hand at it.
I didn't even. Yeah, I didn't. I completely forgot about the intro. Sometime we'd have been doing soft openings, so I don't know if we wanted to just do a soft opening, but
No, let me try my hand at it. Let me see if I can remember it first of all. Um,
Yeah, really.
all right. Welcome to the Agora Podcast with Second Penguin. This is your home for agorism, localism, decentralization, and anti-authoritarian concepts. It's been a while, and me and Penguin are here to get caught up.
Yes,
Penguin, how you doing,
much
man?
needed. Doing well. I'm doing well. Just talking about how I guess I'm just catching up with much needed rest and everything. With the snow, I think we're both snowed in right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've got um, like 2, 3 inches, so nothing crazy. That's kind of shuts things down around here. But it's
We got
also
more than
like
that.
it's like 19 degrees here too. It's pretty
Mm.
cold for around here. So for me, that's just it's not worth going outside and working in. So
I live on the coast, so and we got more snow than that. And I don't. I think in my 38 years of living here, this is the most snow that I've seen my entire
what do you
life. This
got?
could be
Like
the most snow that
12,
I don't know
14
how many
inches?
inches. To be
No.
honest, no, not that much, but still, it's for here. That's just it's way too much. It's still probably the most that I've seen. I think, as far as I can remember, even when I was a kid, I don't think there was ever this much snow in one go, and it was snowing more today too. So it's just like it had been going through the night, and then it started up again during the day. About to get the sun is finally out, like in the past hour.
Yeah, it did the same thing here. Like it snowed Tuesday night into Wednesday, and then it stopped for a while, and then it snowed again overnight, and then it snowed again a little bit at like noon, and now the sun's out.
Well,
But
I rode my motorcycle home. I got home and got my supplies on the way home just for it to start accumulating, and then it was which was obviously a cold ride, but yeah, it
damn,
really
that's
came down
hardcore.
hard.
You rode your bike out in this?
Well,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
I was trying to really beat the snow, to be honest with you. So I mean, they
Right.
knew I was on a motorcycle, so yeah, no, I covered it up real quickly, went inside, and I haven't been outside since except on the porch.
Yeah. I mean, I went out and played in the snow with the kids a little bit and got ready for tomorrow, but that was about it.
Yeah, it'd be so fun if I was a kid, get this much snow at one time, because like it's usually like an inch or whatever, but no, this is some serious snow.
Yeah. Yeah, the kids love it. Throwing snow and getting, icicles and stuff and running around. So
Yep,
it's not really good snow though, it's like powder. So
powder. Yeah,
it'd be good for skiing, but not for snowballs.
true.
So, well, why don't we let everybody know where the fuck we've been?
Where have we been?
Well,
I know where I've been at work.
yeah.
I
Well,
went and got a normal
you had
job.
a change in occupation.
Yes, yes.
How about that?
I was in a pretty bad place. So my previous ventures, kind of folded, at least as far as my end of it's concerned, my participation. So I was in a really bad place. I was just basically scraping by. I got a little bit of help from my family, kind of scraping by, reset the kind of situation that I was in because it had really done a number on me in a lot of ways. But finally settled on a job that's been a pretty rough transition. About 6 months into position, I'll just say that it's in like it's a it's a sales position, which always sucks. It's a pretty bad trap to fall in. I mean, of course, but it also has a lot of potential upside. So I'm just starting to see that. It's also, unfortunately, just like my previous occupation, it's just as seasonally dependent as my previous occupation. Like it crawls down close to, but not all the way to zero in the winter, and it really picks up immediately as you approach spring, which unfortunately is like something that I can't escape. It's the exact same seasonal pattern, which does suck. But anyways, it's been interesting. It's fun. It's just sales is sort of, I don't know if it's my exact forte or my necessarily my calling, but it's something that where there's at least some income potential and kind of get me into a little bit of a better place. So obviously, I just really wasn't just I wasn't in the exact. I don't want to go into. I don't want to play the whole like mental health card. I really don't get into like mental health and therapy culture and stuff like that. But I was obviously in a very clearly obvious mental state, not really conducive to certainly to podcasting and just being in, just reevaluating my life, thinking about thinking about the fact that I'm not really interested in talking about telling people how the world is or talking about how the world ought to be if like my situation is so massively screwed up and that I'm in this kind of bitch you live like this kind of situation. Like I'm really all sorts of messed up. And the last thing I'm worried about is podcasting. I love listening to podcasts and I love to like be in a group discussion, but I'm not so sure I'm a good person to take advice from when you're in kind of a messed up situation. You're just not in the mental state for it exactly. I mean, obviously my communication skills, which always could be use improvement, I think have gotten worked and improved a little bit better, and I'm certainly in a better place where I'm able to I don't know. I'm just in a better place overall in far as being in a workplace where I can interact with large numbers of people for better or for worse, and probably helps me out quite a bit. A lot of challenges and everything, but it's a fun job in a fun industry. I'm not going to go into what I do, but it's a fun job in a fun industry. It's um, you know, it's not dry by any stretch of the imagination. So that's kind of cool. It kind of involves some of my keen interests. So yeah, I think things have definitely had been somewhat eventful, but also kind of depressing last few months because of the continued seasonality of my occupation. But February
Yeah.
usually is when the sun really starts to come out, so to speak. The sun's literally coming out right through my blinds. So, yep, things are looking up.
Good. Yeah, because I could definitely tell you were stressed as shit there for a while. So I'm glad things are doing better.
Yep,
Yeah. Plus, your schedule was whack there for a while. You didn't know what your schedule was going to be from like one week to the next, right?
yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. So it was very hard for us to even sneak one in anywhere.
yeah, I mean, I was either doing like full, like not as my main source of income, or like on the side, I was working as much. I was trying to do as much as possible, like part time work. It would end up being that just wouldn't. I wouldn't have to do it a lot of the time, but I wouldn't know until the last minute, or it gets canceled out. It gets rained out on the last minute, and then I'm like, oh shit, I was free. But yeah, I don't know. It's to be honest with you, probably wasn't conducive to the best podcasting at the time anyway. So kind of being in a much better place and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And hopefully this has been the last year where like I'm all sorts of messed up throughout the winter time, knowing that I can't really escape the seasonality aspect of everything. But yeah, no, I think it's good to be on the mic. I'm liking it. I think I'm feeling more confident. I'm feeling more confident overall recording right now.
Well, good. And honestly, I take as much of the blame here as Penguin does for not being around, just because.
You've
Well,
had a lot
so
going on.
I
You,
had a lot going on, like a lot going on. We closed on a house in September, or no, excuse me, October. So, like the entire month of September, we were working on, getting all the paperwork done and everything the bank wanted, and running around with that, and fucking inspections and whatever else, and all that, and getting prepared to move. And you saw my place, man. You know how much shit I had to move just on the between the outside and the inside. I'm literally still moving. Like I
hmm.
still have a pile of like compost over there at the old house. I've got some railroad just random odds and ends, but my skid steer is still over there, just because I got to move some more stuff around. So I spent the entire like 2 months of October and November just straight moving stuff, my whole business. Plus I was working, at least full time and moving. And we have all the animals to move, and like chickens, whatever, and then get fencing put in up here. And I'm now we got a house on 7 acres, and I'm trying to build a farm here. So as soon as we moved in, I just hit the ground fucking running trying to get everything set up around here. And it's good, but it was a lot. It was a lot. I had no time. I had absolutely no time. I mean, maybe I could have set aside a couple hours here and there, but like with the way your schedule was, it wouldn't be possible anyway. Like we
Well, I
would have
work
had.
weekends, so and you're basically
Yes.
working as much as you can. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and I was working all the weekends too, just between moving and working around the house here. Like we've been building coops and setting up fucking fences and coops for the rabbits and moving this around and where the garden's going to go, and here I got this pile of dirt I got to move now, just like all kinds of shit. And it's all good stuff. It's just we've been incredibly freaking busy, and the kids and all their stuff too, and all on top of everything else. So we were going nonstop for months and months and months. Still am. Like I still am working every day unless it's snowing, or even sometimes when it's raining, I'm out there in the rain, doing X, Y, or Z things. Um, but we were happy renting for a long time, and we had a lot of free reign. You've been to our old property. We were renting that place, and we had a lot of free reign of what we can do. But at the end of the day, there's only so much capital you can put into a rental that makes sense in terms of like infrastructure, before you're like, hey, I'm just dumping money into somebody else's place here. So we pulled the trigger. We started looking last year. Um, and we finally found a place that was suitable, and that we had to pull the trigger. And now we're moving at expanding. We moved in, and we're looking to expand in terms of like livestock, a lot more meat, birds, um, and sheep and goats, and turkey, quail, chickens, all that kind of good stuff. Bees. Going to set up some food forest here. I'm going to drop probably buy thousands of trees and edible plants and stuff and put them all in. So I got my work cut out for me, but for a while I was sort of content with being able to trade for meat, but now I'm getting a little more concerned about the way things are, and I want to be able to produce as much of not just produce. We already had produce locked down. I mean, you saw our gardens when you were at our house there, but I want to be able to produce more of our own protein here on the property. So we've got a couple dozen quail. We've got, chickens. We're working on getting more chickens. We got an incubator set up. Hopefully we're going to hatch another 12 chicken. We've got turkeys now, working on putting up more fencing. We've got a big old nice pasture in the back. We're going to put some sheep and goats out back along with some meat chickens. And then on the outer edge, we're going to have a big old food forest. And then up near the house, we're going to have just a shit ton of gardens. And then we're going to have a field full of crops sort of to the far on the edge of our property, which will be just outside of the pasture. So that'll be growing feed mostly for the animals and some for us, but it'll be stuff like corn and sorghum and beets and beans and stuff like that, things we can feed to the animals. And so just talking about those things, that'll give you some idea of how busy we have been. You know what I mean? I'm almost completely moved out of our old house. Like I said, I've still got stuff over there. So I've been running over there after work, bringing stuff back, unloading that till dark, so it's been a lot. We're getting kind of caught up now to where like at least I can just focus on stuff, and I'll have a little bit more I wouldn't say free time, but I'll be able to block out a couple hours to do some recording here and there. Which brings me to my question: what is reasonable? How much time? Like, can we do this once a month? Or
I'm definitely trying to do at least that. I can probably going to be on Fridays and not Thursdays, but since we both happen to be snowed in, it was like, yeah, that's probably a pretty
let's just
convenient
do
day.
it. Yeah.
Plus, I don't think I'm going to get any meltage until like noon tomorrow, which is like I'd like to get out around noon. And so probably want to use my afternoon tomorrow with a little bit of melting. Yeah, on the motorcycle, but I think the roads will be fine.
Yeah, just go slow.
Yeah.
Well, let's say we'll for sure do once a month, and maybe another one for the Patreon, like something small.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of two a month already, and then if we got time, we can do another one.
Yeah, maybe like a big one and then a small one for the Patreon, and maybe another bonus small one or something like that. I don't know. I mean that
Yeah,
yeah, the
wicked.
small mini small ones and at least one big one. I think that sounds like a kind of good idea. And the big one obviously could be with a guest or without a guest, or the small one could be with a guest. If you just want
Right.
to do a small, yeah,
Yeah, that
who
works
knows?
too.
Whatever.
Um, I could also. I was kind of thinking about sort of recording a little bit while I'm working on stuff and just explaining what I'm doing, like
Okay,
as I'm building farm stuff. I don't know if I want to do video, but I could record some
you
audio. Like,
should you should do TikToks.
fuck, I don't know how to do that,
Honestly, you
man.
should do TikToks. But dude, everybody does them. They can't be how hard. I don't know how to do them. I mean, I've never had the
I've never
inclination to
done
do
it.
a TikTok, but you don't see me. It's like I'm not trying to necessarily be anonymous so
Yeah,
much. I'm not like so stuck on it, but I don't want to break anonymity either because it's like I don't even have an inclination to have an Instagram or a freaking TikTok. You know what I
I'll
mean?
tell you what. You set
Is
up the
TikTok
TikTok,
banned
and I'll.
actually? I don't remember. Trump saved TikTok, I think.
I don't
I
know
don't
what's
I
going
don't
on with that. Yeah, I
I don't
know. I don't think it's going to get banned. People will lose their mind. But I
yeah.
think they.
Yeah.
I think they push that back or something. I'll tell you what. If you set up the TikTok, I'll do that and show me how to
You
do
were
it. I'll
talking
do
to her. Get your daughter to do it.
it. Yeah, she
He's
probably
it's a
already
it's
knows
a
how to do it.
it's a generation alpha thing. It's a Zoomer and Gen Alpha thing. So I think that's the generation that she. I don't. Yeah. It has to be the one on
I
the
don't. I
Zoomers.
don't think she's on TikTok, but maybe. I'm sure she knows how. But um, no, I don't want to encourage her social media use either. Um,
Yeah.
but no, yeah, I mean, if you will set it up for me and show me how to do it, I will do that because that doesn't
Yeah.
sound that hard
I might
for
have to
me.
set one up for work. I'm not having. I mean, I already had to market myself, but I was the old thing wasn't gonna benefit from TikTok, but now I might have to set up a TikTok account for marketing, doing what I do. So might be interesting. We'll see. I might
Yeah.
have to go and take the plunge, learn how to use it.
Well, there you go. Just let me know what happens because the honestly, what I'm doing out there would be kind of conducive to like TikTok because I could do a little. Hey, I'm building a
That's what I'm
fucking
thinking.
coop today. Here, this is what I'm doing. Blah blah blah, etc. Short little video. I could do that. And I could do that in a way that it doesn't really show my location too well, but
Oh, I don't know. Some people are really good at geolocating off of like nothing.
sure. I
Look
mean,
at
if they
they'll look at
really
the
want to
planes,
find me,
the planes in the sky and the shadow, and then they'll correlate that with something else. Like, they
I'm
can
sure
they
they
can find.
can. I'm sure they can find me. I mean, you don't. This is not the house you want to show up at.
I don't know if anybody wants to find you that badly. They
No,
couldn't
no,
already
I
do
don't.
it.
Nobody. The feds already know where I am. You know what I mean? So,
That's what I'm saying.
oh, reminder. I think we still have an audio book in the queue that we could also release. I'm nearly positive we
Oh
do.
my god, I think we do.
I think
I
I
think
want
I
to say
wanted
it's
to.
Dear America by Carl Hess.
Yeah, I never finished reading it, and then that's why it got away from me. I wanted to finish reading Dear America. I got about halfway through. I need to finish because I actually still really dig Hess.
I do too. Well,
Yeah,
just fucking post it and then listen to it.
yeah. Well, I don't. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I might want to pick it up and finish it today while I'm snowed in,
There you
so I
go.
don't go absolutely stir crazy. Because I don't like being inside. Yeah, I'm introverted, but I don't like being out inside or alone. I mean, maybe alone, but I don't like being inside. I like to be around people.
Um, I don't like being around people much, um, but my house is full of people, so
You've got a house full of people. I don't.
right. And I got two more coming.
Yes, I didn't know if you wanted to announce, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I might as well. Um, yeah, my wife is pregnant with twins, so we got two more babies coming.
Woo!
She's
It's
doing
exciting.
probably the end of September or mid September. So yeah, we'll have two twins. They're identical twins, and we're going to what is it called? A genetic counselor next week because she's 36. So they want to
Okay.
look at so we will find out way ahead of time if they're boys or girls. Um, so that'll be nice.
Cool.
So yeah, twins coming. Woohoo!
She's
Um,
36. You're old as shit.
I'm old as shit. Yeah.
I just had a birthday, so I feel like super old. I'm like well into middle age now.
What do you like? 38, right? Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my exact age. It's a horrible number. God.
I knew you were a couple of years younger than me, but I couldn't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. So I gotta get my shit together. So which I think I'm doing. I think if I just like even if I just stay the course, I think I'm fine. I'm trying to do more than next day the course, obviously, but like you know, uh, gotten a lot of been a lot of gotten a lot of help. Been very fortunate. Have a lot of people helping me out, looking out for me and everything, and God's looking out for me as far as like I mean, yes, definitely is, but I think things are looking up. I hope I get all my stuff together and you know plot something ahead like you create something probably a little less rural than what you're doing, which seems 7 acres probably pretty damn rural, but
Honestly, dude, I wasn't much younger than you when I started completely over at zero again and built all the way back up again.
yeah, really,
Like
that's
before I moved to Tennessee, like I had burned through all of my cash in California, and I had sold the business and burned through all that money. I basically came to Tennessee with like, I don't know, a couple $1,000 in my pocket, and then just fucking built it all back up again. I've been here, I don't know, 2017 or 18 since then.
damn.
And I had fucking virtually nothing, dude, so yeah, I mean, it's it sucks then, but it's not too late. I wasn't much younger than you then. So I don't know, 34 or so, something like that. So uh yeah. I mean, you're not too old. You're gonna be fine. You'll figure something out. But
Yeah, I'm in a good position right now, so I mean, just not exactly creating stuff as much as you. And I mean, I'm not going to be. I could get a lot more rural than I am now, but I'm never going to get as rural as you. But so there's not a lot of space to create in that sense, as far as you know, agriculturally, so to speak. But there's definitely some stuff in the mix. Definitely working in a cool industry and getting to meet a lot of people. So hopefully I can meet a lot more interesting people and I don't know, the sky's the limit at this point.
you know, you don't have to go super rural. Like the house I owned with my first wife, that was like, I think we had like 5 acres, but that was like still kind of in suburbia. Um, but it was like on the edge of suburbia and rural, like we're
I think all that's getting bought up around here, but
sure.
there is definitely access to some stuff like that. It might have to go over the state line a little bit, but they got a highway. Yeah, I mean it's doable. It is certainly doable. Might have to go over the state line into North Carolina, and commute in to do that. That's what I think people do. I think
Yeah.
I think that's what people do, to be honest with you, because
I think
that's the
that'd be
best direction
more
to go.
suitable because then you could still have a garden and chickens or whatever, but you're still kind of in the city limits, or you know
Now,
what
if
I
I'm
mean?
wanting like an acre or an acre, acre and a half, that's somewhat doable. That's just pricey, man. People got money around here, man. A lot of it's a big military town, so it's
Right.
it's a lot of people bidding up the prices. But yeah, go over the state line. I think it's quite doable.
Yeah, you don't need a lot of land to produce like quite a bit of food, especially if it's like just you or you and your significant other. But
Yep.
I mean, you saw the gardens I had, I mean, at my old place, and we produce way more food in terms of just produce than any of us could possibly eat. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I know somebody who
uh,
had like an acre or so, and or maybe not even an acre, but I think an acre, and could have been a little less than an acre actually. But anyways, not terribly far. We used to like have them as a client. It was a friend of mine. We used to have them as a client with the lawn and landscaping, and it was definitely accessible. It was definitely someone where she commuted close to where I live and work and everything. I mean, it's not terribly far away. You're within like let's say 35 to 50 minutes from the cities and everything, and you could get decent amount of land that, for a small family. Yeah, I mean, there's no 7 acres, but everything's a trade off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we got to drive 20 minutes to a grocery store. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
um, that's the sort of the price of living out here. But we do have neighbors, which I wasn't stoked about. That was the one downside. But all the neighbors have little kids that are our kids' age, and we live on a road that like is not very traveled on. You kids can ride their bikes up and down it and stuff. So I decided I kind of like that. We actually have more neighbors than I did at my old house. Um, but they all have kids like that are our kids' age, so they all play together and stuff, and it's very nice. So
that's
our
actually
kids,
good. I think. Yeah, that's
yeah,
actually like because that could be one of the big downsides. I think so. I think that's good.
we're not quite so uh, isolated, so that's good. I mean, the kids come over all the time, so that's the one plus side. And I've already made kind of good friends with some of the neighbors. We've helped each other out a few times about doing this or that. So my neighbor brought over his mini excavator to help me with a thing, and so it's been good. I don't usually like neighbors for obvious reasons because if it's bad, it can go real bad, and
Yeah,
but it's been good. They've been good neighbors and with good people and with kids and stuff like I mentioned. So the kids fucking love it. All right, well I guess we got all that out of the way. So look for more,
yeah,
episodes
we needed
coming.
to.
It's not going to be as often as before, but it will be on a more regular basis.
I'm down to do like shorter ones just to keep up with current events and small topics.
Yeah, but for sure try to release that audio thing because actually I want to listen to that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I got to find the drive. We definitely should do that,
yeah.
especially since Carl has.
Well, let me know. I can send you a link to the drive again or whatever. But
All right,
yeah, we
this is my
should put
favorite
that out.
somewhere. All right, so
All right. So I had a long rant and something I've been thinking about recently that I want to pick your brain on.
okay, it's a good segue probably into all this stuff because I've got a ton of stuff and I think it's right up the alley, fitting in the kind of things I want to talk about. And all this past year of more low frequency podcasting and then kind of the hiatus. But yeah, shoot, what is it?
Okay, it's going to be kind of a long rant, and I'm going to go the long way around like I always do. But essentially, what I'm going to get at is just because the establishment comes after somebody doesn't mean that person is not the establishment. So I'm going to give you another example in my own like personal life that kind of led me to this thing. And I'm sorry if I keep bringing this up, and this is problematic for some people, but it's just how I kind of view the world. So my mother died when I was like 18, I think, and she was abused pretty badly by my father. So for a long time, my sister and I have talked this over time and time and time again, trying to work through this, right? But for a long time, we used to hold my mother up on like a pedestal. She was the victim. She was, we just put her on a pedestal, and she was a great person, full of like energy and just like a spitfire kind of a person. Like one of my earliest memories is like we're at a protest and these cops were like shoving people around, and she went up to this fucking cop who like towered over her, and she was just like, who the fuck do you think you are? And just was like poking him in the chest. And that's just like the type of person she was. And she was very funny and all this and very silly. But at the same time, like years later, my sister and I sort of worked through this talking to each other. It's like she was all of those things, but she was not fucking perfect. And we had her as like perfect in her head because she was a victim of my father and because she died, really, because she died and we missed her, but she was also abusive too, and she did some pretty awful things to us kids. And overall she was just like not a good parent. And so like it took years to sort of like in distance and time from her passing for us to like sort of work through this and to like think of her in a more nuanced way. So I say all this to say, said all that to say this. People have the same thing about, like, let's say JFK. My parents were one of them. They thought JFK could, was the greatest thing ever, and that's why they, quote unquote, took him out. My parents were like obsessed with the Kennedy assassination, and the same with like Jello Biafra of the dead Kennedys. Like he, just held JFK on this huge pedestal because the establishment, for lack of a better term, took the guy out. Now, it's my personal opinion that like it wasn't Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon B. Johnson probably knew something was coming down the line and just like fell in line to because he was the one that was stood to benefit and became president. But I think it was sort of a mix of like Allen Dulles and the CIA and the mob that took Kennedy out. So people come up with a lot of different reasons as to why Kennedy was taken out. He's presented as like this peacemaker, and he was going to end all the wars. Or some other people will be like, "Oh, he's going to bring us back to like the gold standard or the silver standard." And I can't go into that too much now, but neither of those things were true. He was not bringing us back to like any kind of hard money. I encourage anybody to listen to the Corbett report, James Corbett, on specifically JFK and the silver standard. And it's executive order like 377, if I remember correctly, or something like that. And I honestly go listen to Thaddeus Russell on JFK just being one of the most rabid anti-communist Cold Warriors. And
I think I just listened to that.
Yeah. And he's not the only one. A lot of people have made these points. He was absolutely a war hawk, 100%. Like he escalated the war in Vietnam. He was a huge Cold Warrior. He was what you would call like a liberal anti-communist. And he made all sorts of deals with all sorts of people and, anti-Castro Cubans and all these like, he ramped up all the wars. So
which you would expect a liberal to be an anti-communist. I don't really see why you wouldn't. I understand that there were some absolutely crazies in on the right that that made up kind of the tripod of conservatism, the war hawks that were just extremist anti-communists. But I mean, why wouldn't a liberal be against anti-communists? Those are not really. I mean, some weirdos and not so off the wall weirdos, claims aside and theories aside, liberals aren't communists, and communists.
No, most of the liberals were.
And where they overlap, I think liberals actually, that makes liberals like communists less,
right?
Not more.
Yeah, they're 100% anti-communist. So, so I encourage anybody to look into that who cares or wants to look into that. But it wasn't the case. I just think that the CIA was relatively new and it had gained a lot of power under like specifically Truman. But I think that JFK really just wanted, as president, wanted to have control of the CIA. I really think that was all it was. He wasn't going to break up the CIA. I think he just wanted control of it as the chief executive. And I think that's why they took him out, to be honest. So, and he did make some, make backdoor deals with the communists for it, but you're just talking diplomacy now. And he was more like a Henry Kissinger than anyone else. And I'll get into more of that, what I mean by that, in a few minutes. So let's move on to like Richard Nixon. So Richard Nixon, obviously not an anti-establishment guy, and neither was Kennedy. Kennedy was no kind of anti-establishment guy, yet they took him out. Why? Because all it takes is like a little bit of a disagreement. These people seem to think like you have to be some like, for the people or some peacenik or whatever for the establishment to take you out, but they don't have their standards are not that high. All it takes is a slight disagreement and they will take you
Well,
out
you
in one
piss
way or
off the
another.
right people in the
Uh-huh.
right way.
And it doesn't take much. Yeah, it just takes a little bit of deviation. And it doesn't mean you're anti-establishment. It just means you have a slightly different view. So I'm going to continue to paint a picture here. So let's move on to Nixon. Now, I think Nixon was actually framed up. There's a lot of evidence to that. And I'll just point out that Bob Woodward, the guy that broke the story to the Washington Post, he was working for them. It was
Deep throat.
the first story he'd ever had as a journalist, and he was formerly naval intelligence.
Naval intelligence, the most scariest kind of intelligence, if you know your history.
Yes. He was young and never had been a journalist before, and he got the biggest story in history. Okay. So just dig down that rabbit hole a little bit and you'll see exactly what I'm saying. So just by me saying that, people assume that I'm saying that Nixon was a good guy or something because they took him out. No. Listen, all Nixon did was listen to Henry Kissinger and go shake hands with Mao and break off China to exacerbate the Sino-Soviet split, to break off China from Russia so that we didn't have to fight both of them. So he was just like he was a cold warrior, a war hawk, the die-hard anti-communist, and also an establishment guy. He just thought that this was the best idea. And I think that is the reason. He wasn't like some guy that's for the people. He wasn't some guy who was going against the establishment in any fundamental way. He just had a slightly different view. There was people at the same time who wanted to fight both the Soviets and the Chinese. And so that would have made a lot more money for weapons manufacturers.
Yeah, we kind of have that now.
Yes. So once again, all it takes is for God's sake, he was going on the advice of Henry goddamn Kissinger. Like, you don't get more establishment than Henry Kissinger. Now, I've hated Henry Kissinger my entire life, but he is less bad than say, like Paul Wolfowitz or
Podhoretz
or any the neoconservatives. He's slightly less bad. He's still a war hawk and a fucking war
Bill
criminal.
Crystal,
And,
all those
yeah,
ghouls.
yeah. The Kagans. Yeah, he's slightly better on certain aspects than those people, but it's the difference. The difference there is it's like, the neoconservatives are very concerned with like remaking other countries in our image. So you might say it's like nation building or like humanitarian or liberal interventionism. Whereas like the Kissingerites are more like great power competition or like realpolitik, where it's, they don't really care if the other country is a liberal democracy. They just care, are they friendly with the U.S.? And the great chessboard and putting, countries off against each other to benefit the U.S. So that's the difference there, so
it's fairly easy to wrap your head around. I don't easily understand how to wrap my head around like neoconservatives, like actual neoconservatives, like you're talking about. I just want to interject because this is kind of like where I'm going with this. It's hard to wrap my head around neoconservatives as true believers. I mean, obviously, if it's a cynical thing, or there's it's a subterfuge, or there's an underlying substrate of something else, which I really don't know. But it's hard to understand exactly if they are true believers, what the motivation is. I totally understand the realpolitik aspect of things.
I think Scott Horton, and he might have been quoting somebody else. He said the neoconservatives are best understood as a merger of the Israel lobby and the weapons manufacturers. So they're both true believers. True believers, like in the sense that they believe it benefits them or benefits the U.S. and Israel for the U.S. to maintain global hegemony. So as long as the U.S. is an empire it can always be there to protect Israel. And the more, and honestly, um, Israel benefits from more liberal democracy, and also
Mhm.
Jews benefit from more liberal democracies in the world.
Well, these guys, yes, and these guys are basically all, the main guys are basically all secular Jews.
Yes.
Wolfowitz, Podhoretz, and Kagan. I mean, that's not surprising at all. So yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it's it's both cynical and they're true believers. They believe it because it will benefit them to believe it. And then the weapons manufacturers fund it all.
And
So
then downstream of that, there's like more concentric circles of more broadly defining neoconservatism, but we're talking about like neoconservatives proper.
yes. Yeah. And their acolytes might differ here or there, but that's the general gist of where the neoconservatives are coming from. So this kind of brings us to Trump because I keep hearing, yeah, this guy's anti-establishment. Um, Look at how they're attacking him. And once again, he's not. He's not. He's been involved in the same circles for my entire lifetime. In these circles, he's a friend of it, Jeffrey Epstein. He's a longtime friend of the Clintons. He is like, I think it's like ninth cousins with Hillary Clinton on his mother's side. They're both go to the Mary Queen of Scots. If that sort of thing is important to you,
I've heard it brought way back before that actually, but
yeah, I mean, a
I'm
lot of them all go
curious to
back
hear
to
it
Charlemagne, but
before
yeah,
that.
yeah. So, um, that might not be important to you, but it's important to these people. Um, and certain people listening will know what I'm talking about. So, but forget all that. He's just been in these circles for my entire lifetime. He's not any kind of anti-establishment guy. Again, it doesn't take much deviation for the establishment to come after you. Again, he's just listening to Henry Kissinger. He said it outright. He said, I had this idea to be friends with Russia to break them away from China because those are the two great superpowers. It's great power politics all over again. It's not any kind of like deviation from the paradigm. It's just a slight difference from the neoconservative doctrine of the past 20 years. But
Yeah,
it's right in line with the military establishment. It's absolutely it's Henry. He said it himself. He said the idea, and he said Henry Kissinger basically gave him his blessing. He said this. No, what Trump's doing is a great idea. This is what I've been saying all these years.
yeah, it's
Except
very easy to wrap your mind around because I mean, these I'll just call it extremists that have been running the mainstream liberal establishment in this country have, like I mentioned earlier, have taken it upon themselves to oppose both China and Russia simultaneously, um, which seems like a crazy thing to do, considering that this was figured out that you probably can't do that. I mean, I don't know. I think a child could probably figure that out, but certainly
sure.
was figured out apparently in the 70s
Yeah.
that you don't want to do that.
Yeah, and what Trump's
You want to
doing is
avoid
just
doing that.
crazy. It's just a slightly different kind of crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
It's more rational,
so
though.
what's that?
It's more rational.
Maybe. So like China doesn't have as many nukes as Russia, and if you make, sure, you don't want to fight both China and Russia, but you don't want to team up with Russia against China either. You know what I mean? Like that's not good. And he doesn't seem to. I don't think he's any kind of principled anti-war guy. He's not even like a paleo Pat Buchanan paleo conservative either. He's just Henry Kissinger. That's who he is. Like he's a 90s Democrat. You know what I mean? Like he's a 90s New York Democrat who listens to Henry Kissinger. And if that's not that crazy because who did Harris bring out? Liz Cheney, and then Hillary Clinton brought around
Lizard Cheney.
Kagan. No, well, Hillary Clinton brought Kagan out on the campaign tour.
Yeah, I mean, they were into rehabilitating Dick Cheney.
Yes.
As much as as much as liberals out there I guess don't care. Honestly, don't seem to care. When I bring that up, yeah, they were absolutely full on the road to fully rehabilitating Dick Cheney, George W. Bush. I mean, you always saw that where they were, and I know some of that just it goes to generational shifts where people were too young to remember the Bush 9/11 Bush years, the global war on terror. But yeah, they were absolutely. If you have any recollection, I mean, if there's any reason to vote for Trump, uh, which totally not advocating voting at all. I think I'm completely ambivalent on whether you do vote or not. I can just say that's probably the very best, most biggest motivation factor I would have had to and did have to cast a vote for Trump.
Yeah, I made a joke. And listen, I don't have any kind of Trump derangement syndrome, and I hate the guy. I don't like him at all. But I don't think like so you talk to people and they either think he's Jesus or the devil, and I don't think to me he just seems like mostly like in action, just like most other politicians. He's Bill Clinton in the '90s. You know what I mean?
I know, and I agree, and my situation over there is not so much opinion, and this is has been my opinion, and recently, ever since he was elected, or ever since the inauguration, I've been surprised, like honestly, how much like he's done things that are just unprecedented. I didn't expect. I honestly thought once he got elected, or once he took the oath of office, I'm like, well, screw this guy. I mean, I understand supporting him up to that point because of the peculiar situation we found ourselves in, and that's basically still kind of how I feel. I mean, I'm not trying to support the or applaud the president of the United States or anything like that. It's not really my cup of tea, but
Yeah, on the campaign trail when she brought out Liz Cheney, and they were saying Trump wants to put Liz Cheney in front of a firing squad. I made the joke. I'm like, well, she's bringing out Liz Cheney, and he wants to put her in front of a firing squad. I mean,
he's got my vote.
He's got my vote. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so
No, but
I really wish he was as fucking cool as they call him. I wish he
but that's how I got really that was the whole thing about Trump, is that it's not like there's two kind of ways you can hate Trump. Like, let's say you're a card carrying like DSA socialist, you're totally on the left and you're fighting for social justice or whatever, and you're gonna hate any Republican, and you want to like fight. Well, I mean, this is a little bit outdated now, but like white male patriarchy or whatever. I think we've actually just stopped doing that now that Trump got elected. But back in the day, like previous to this year, where people said stuff like that, and you're like totally revolutionary, and you're like listening to like Brooklyn Marxist podcasters and everything, and you just hate these Republicans so much, and you hate capitalism and everything, and think everybody should get health care. Totally get why you would hate Donald Trump. No problem at all. Or even if you're just really some other kind of leftist, I don't know, whatever. I get why you hate Donald Trump. I have no like problem with that at all. But it's the people that the farther to the right, and I know this is not a scientific thing, but the farther to the right you are, if you're in the center, or even if you're a Republican, especially the Republicans that hate the anti-Trump Republicans, are literally the worst people alive in this country. Like the most CIA centrist bloboid people, but even also just people that particularly hate Donald Trump, specifically hate Donald Trump, because the fact is that he is, you're right, he's not anti-establishment, but he is the closest thing to anti-establishment by some peculiar features. He is even if he's just 1% of the way there, that's more than any of the previous guys that have occupied that office. And he is a particular threat, I think, to changing certain aspects, so some of the most entrenched aspects of government power, whether it is like you can see it with the USAID stuff, the which is not USAID, of course, it's U.S. Agency for International Development, but stuff like that. And I guess I'm kind of talking about current events when I'm really talking about the past, God, almost decade now, where yeah, just about where the people that particularly hate Donald Trump tend to be the people with some of the worst, most pro DC establishment politics. And oh God, the people on the right, the Liz Cheneys of the world, and the various different kinds of people who come out against Trump, they just absolutely just love nothing more than seeing U.S. manufactured weapons bombing children all over the world. Just it's kind of a litmus test in a way. It's a little more complicated than to lay it out actually, like verbally, but it is a litmus test for some truly bad and despicable people. Like the point is, does have enemies that are truly bad and despicable people, regardless of whether he's an anti. I don't think the host of The Apprentice is some particularly revolutionary guy or particularly ideological guy at all, which I don't think he is. I think maybe that's to his credit. But yeah, I mean, some of the anti-Trump contingent on this in the center and the center right are just some of the most, just a way to like collect and categorize some of the most slimiest people in American politics.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. But I would just say for like everything that Trump does that you and I might like, there's a list of 100 things that are worse than the previous guy or the guy before that. So it's like last time around, like I was very happy to see him go meet with Kim Jong-un and try to hammer out a deal. Now that didn't happen, but I was happy to see it, right? But
Yeah.
then he was terrible on COVID. He was terrible on guns. He was terrible on free speech even. He was terrible on Russia. He was terrible,
Oh yeah, the whole fact that he armed Ukraine,
yeah.
which they impeached him for not doing. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
again
he was going farther than Obama ever did on against,
correct.
against Russia. Yeah, he was good on Syria. Like he ended Operation Timber Sycamore. So I think like if you start doing a pros and cons list, right? I think on the whole, he's not any better or worse than any other president. Every president's got their pros and cons. I don't like any of them. I think they're all war criminals, but you can at least say like, well, this person, they did this, but they also did this, this, and this, So this
Yeah, I
time
think
around, listen, I've been against NED and USAID for a very long time. I understand very well that these are CIA cutouts. They've said explicitly, we do now overtly what the CIA used to do covertly. Okay. I understand that this is the CIA, this is the empire, USAID, National Endowment for Democracy, National Republican Institute. I understand these fucking NGOs are essentially soft power and they do coups around the world and they gangsterize other people's economies and they buy out foreign politicians and they dump money into various campaigns so the right guy wins and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I hate these fucking organizations and I'm glad to see Trump smash them. Fuck them. I'm glad to see him run them scared. It's like January 6th. It's like, I don't like the guys that are doing it, but I'm glad to see the politicians afraid. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I'm glad to see that. But goddamn, is he fucking terrible on Israel? Holy fuck, dude. Sheldon Addison's widow is sure getting her money's worth.
I was about to say it. Yeah, I was going to say all that Adelson money. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's doing good on Ukraine. I think it's generally just unpopular now. It's not as popular as it was a few years ago. People are tired of it. So, last time around, he ended the he hammered out a deal with the Taliban, but he didn't follow through on it and then left it to Biden to do 8 months later or however, a year later or whatever it was. I think it was like 9 months later. And, Biden fucked it all up. But Biden's the one that actually did it. But Trump could have he did hammer out that deal and that was good, and this time around I'm glad to see him crush USAID, let him fuck around with the bureaucracy and the whatever. I think
honestly,
there is a concern
surprised,
though to have the executive branch being so powerful with the biggest oligarch in the world, and I'm no fan of Elon Musk either, having that much control over the federal government. I think like we don't want to be short-sighted on this. Like we're rah, yeah, fuck the USAID, fuck the IRS right now. I'm happy to see that. But, just firing federal employees, fuck them all. But this is
It's
also how like coups happen
it's just
when you,
unprecedented. It's just
yeah,
unprecedented. I'm very surprised because like Trump is not particularly
no, this is not
he's a populist
unprecedented.
guy.
Listen, we've seen this happen before in history where an executive power gains a lot of control over all of these uh, mechanisms of government. We've seen what happens before in history. That can be very, very dangerous to have like a strong man like that come in and just, he's wrecking house for you right now, but you just gave so much power to like the executive branch and this one oligarch, and that might be fine, but it could be real fucking dangerous. That goes real sideways real fast. So we got to
Yeah, it's
be
weird.
careful of that. Yeah, it's
This
very
whole
weird.
this whole second Trump presidency is weird because he has a he I mean, yes, it obviously it's a product of the vast unpopularity of center left Democratic governance, that a guy that was genuinely, I mean, Trump was genuinely unpopular in his first term, did not have a popular mandate, was completely opposed by like institutions and the government itself. They did not cooperate. They did not like follow his instructions. They went to Congress and testified against him. They blocked everything that he did. They just didn't refuse to carry out what he did. They refused to work with the people from his office. They, I don't know, framed him for some shit. Regardless of, look, they're all, yeah, we agree that they're all criminals. I think Trump's would be sort of in a different way because he comes from a different world, but they framed him for the shit that they did about the Russiagate stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean they framed him and then they went after him for shit that he actually did that literally
Oh,
all of them do.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So like
The
I'll give you
first impeachment,
two quick
ridiculous.
examples. Trump kept and this is what made him popular because these people don't understand. Everyone thinks they're lying bastards and they're evil. So when you attack Trump, that just makes him popular because people don't trust these politicians or the media. So when you attack this guy, it just makes people think that he is an outsider when he's not.
And the more unpopular you get, you being those people that are basically on the other
Yes.
side, the more unpopular you get, the more the Trump comes back. A genuinely unpopular like Trump was not popular. He was popular with a minority of people, and now he's
Yes.
now he is popular with a majority of people. And thank goodness that's
including independents
the
and
one thing
Democrats. Yeah.
Yes, and that one thing is scary. Like I not scary. So I have
It's concerning.
What I have second thoughts about is the fact that as soon as this guy wins the election, like it's November 5th or whatever day it was, like, the next day, Trump wins the election. Everything freaking changes. There's like white men in commercials. There's no more freaking moderation on social media, and it just almost instantly, like there is no more like nobody talks about fuck freaking fat phobia anymore, and they've taken the minorities out of everything and the Disney movies, and it's bizarre. It's honestly like bizarre how the culture, all the corporations just totally switched off the left wing stuff, the woke. You might want to call it an op. I don't like that language, but you know what
listen,
I mean.
This is what I've been saying this for so long because
Ended immediately.
Yes, well, this actually proves the argument I've been making for so long, is people keep saying like all this woke stuff, it's top down, the corporations are pushing it, and I'm like, no, listen, the corporations are just jumping in front of the parade. They don't give a fuck if it was 1930s Nazi and we were friends with Nazi Germany, they'd have Nazi shit all over their stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? And they did, by the way. So they're just jumping on whatever is popular. Oh, this stuff is like 51% of people think that this stuff is popular. Well, we're going to fucking run with that. And I do think that, you go back to Hillary Clinton. She's like, I can break up the big banks, but would that end racism and sexism? Wouldn't it be better to leave the big banks and make sure that they're not sexist and racist? And I think there is some truth to the fact that big banks would prefer, and the financial institution, the oligarchs and stuff would prefer like woke identity politics to like class war.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
But
they,
to
they
see
absolutely
woke
would.
die, I get that like people woke was
So that's
dying
that's
before
what I
that.
mean is that's why the corporations jumped on that train. That's it. It's not like it was
Mhm.
coming from them. And now look, you saw all the tech oligarchs standing next to Trump. They're just going wherever the wind's blowing. They don't give a fuck. They have no beliefs. They don't believe in anything except making money off of you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it.
I don't like that. I don't like the fact that they dropped the act. Every single corporation dropped the act immediately.
So here's
It
the other
was
side of that though,
crazy.
is Trump's trying to get all this like stopping anti-Semitism stuff going through. He's no defender of free speech. He just doesn't like that particular speech and wants to ban his own fucking, he wants his own woke agenda, his own safe spaces for now you can't criticize Israel. If you're criticizing Israel, you're a Palestinian, you're a Hamas supporter, and we want to deport you,
Yeah,
et
it's a
cetera, et
real blind
cetera.
spot because like
Yeah.
society is moving past that, and society has moved past a lot of stuff that he's like, but he's not with it. Trump's almost 80 years old. I don't, it may be 80. I don't know how old he is, man, but he's old. He's old as the hills, as they say. He doesn't know what's going on. Like that will go away, but it needs to go away a lot faster because a lot of people are dying because of this conflict and everything. And it is such a huge blind spot because I guess just he's been around that group of people, that interest group, the Jewish American kind of like secular establishment. Um, and yeah, he just feels beholden, like he wants to impress them, and he has a lot of their money, and he's worked with them all his life. And I guess just being who he is, he's never going to give that up. He thinks that that's something that's valuable for him, and it probably has proven to be valuable for him. They basically put him into office two times.
Oh, he did free Ross, and you know what?
Yes, that was good. That was awesome.
Kudos to him for doing that. I'm very happy to see Ross free. So
That
just
was
like
surprising.
any other
I
politician,
mean, that's what I'm saying. These things are surprising. I'm just surprised at the things that he has done that you just wouldn't expect from a president. And I really wanted to be like, screw him. As soon as he takes the office, screw him. It's going to do a lot of terrible stuff. And I mean, you can argue that he has. I don't think he's going to turn Gaza into a casino, but he needs to figure this out fast. I mean,
I
based on the
honestly, I
pattern,
think he's going to try to get Jordan and Egypt to take the Palestinians. I think he's going to try. And if he plays hardball with Egypt, the U.S.'s relationship with Jordan and Egypt is,
for client states.
well, I mean, but the relationship there is tenuous at best. Like, we pay him a lot of money every year to not fight Israel, basically, to be friendly with Israel.
Yeah,
but they're not going to take millions of Palestinians. They're just not. And if you try to squeeze them too hard, they'll just get out of that deal. Do you know what I mean?
I mean it's an impossibility.
It's not because the
crazy.
Palestinians are terrible people or anything like that. You're just talking about changing the entire demographic or the voting system of those two countries.
I mean, Jordan was 50 to 60% Palestinian, or 70. I mean, there were some ridiculous number of Palestinian, because there's not that many people that are native to that place.
Yeah.
And they were already like 60 to 70% Palestinian in the 50s and 60s. And then they had a huge fight over it.
Right.
Because that came to pass, that what you're describing came to pass already. So there's not enough Jordanians. There might be more Jordanians now.
Right.
Even them are
you're talking about
Palestinians.
they're talking about being a threat to their power entirely, to the Hashemite king there, and to was it Mubarak, right? Sisi, General Sisi. Yeah, sorry.
The current guy.
Yeah, the current guy.
That guy.
It would be a threat to their actual power, not because the Palestinians are all fucking crazy terrorists or anything like that. It's just you're talking about an entirely different voting block. Do you know what I mean? Like that they would have a lot more power in Jordan and Egypt than the current the population. So they absolutely cannot accept the Egypt and Jordan can't accept that. So if Trump tries to force that issue, you're going to have way worse problems. You know what I mean? And I think if he thought he could get away with it, I think he would absolutely, on fucking BB's behalf, ethnically cleanse fucking Gaza. I really think he would. I don't think he gives a flying fuck about the people there at all.
Yeah, it's a big question mark, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's a big question mark. Like I do think there's some evidence to kind of suggest that he wants to do something to end it, but that could be that could
Yes. So,
range from very good to very bad, and probably
well,
isn't going to be very good.
here's the difference for real, and like you and I would like to see an end to that conflict because we value like the human life of Palestinians, right? That's not his fucking deal. He doesn't give a shit, I don't think. But he is a guy that likes to make deals. So sometimes that can be like beneficial, right? Like in the case of like, I think that will be beneficial in the case of Ukraine and Russia. I think he
And
wants to
he's
make a
not
deal with.
constrained by some of the things where, like everybody else, he's not constrained by
High
loyalty to
ideals.
a
Yeah.
loyalty to a certain establishment.
Right.
Yeah,
But in the case of Israel Gaza, that could like hammering out a deal that could go really bad really fast. You know what I mean? Like even if he's trying to get a deal there, like that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come out well for the Palestinians. Like the deal behind the Abraham Accords. Like
I mean
he
that's why this whole we're in the situation that we're in now is because
exactly right. Like he's like,
yeah,
"Oh, I made a great deal or whatever the thing." It's like, "No, you just paid all these countries to tell the Palestinians that no one is coming for you. You have no hope now. You bought off all these Arab states to be friends with Israel now. So now the Palestinians feel like they have no hope of a political solution whatsoever ever again, and no one is coming to save them.
forever.
So that forever, and so that's the result of the Abraham Accords. But he holds that up as such a great deal or whatever because he made a deal so that we could have something similar with the Palestinians and the Israelis, where the fucking Palestinians just get bent over and forced to take a fucking deal at it's the old thing from Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It's like, look, your brains or your signature is going to be on this contract. You know what I mean? So like I don't like a deal there doesn't necessarily mean peace, and it doesn't mean something good. You know what I mean? Like it could be way worse for the Palestinians. Like he could hammer out a deal, and I mean all it takes is him getting a few people at the UN to recognize that Israel is the sovereign of that whole area from the Jordan to the sea. So you might say it's like one secular state, but guess what? That the Likud is the ruling coalition. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It could be, I'm just saying it could be almost worse than it was previously. And I think this was BB's plan all along, just raise that whole area to the ground. So there is nothing to come back to. There's nothing there now.
Yeah.
So now you can say, well, look, this place is uninhabitable now. So that's going to be a factor in any deal. Do you know what I mean?
I mean,
Like,
frankly, they didn't want to. Like, they didn't want to. They didn't have much of a desire to settle on one idea, so they just let it kind of fester for like 30 years or 20 years or whatever since they took let's just say since they took the settlers out. Well, they couldn't decide what direction to go. I guess there was multiple different factions and opinions within Israel. So what they do know now though, well, there's a couple of things. So what I say about Israeli society is that they've become far, far, far. So they started off as like a explicitly socialist left-wing project of national liberation, and they have over time, because of demographic, who has children and who doesn't. They're very, very, very rapidly ethno-nationalist country that's bent on
it was
genocide.
always a weird coalition between like literally far left socialist Zionists and
Mm-hmm.
like far right ethno nationalist Zionists.
But I think also the
At the
left
very beginning.
wingers often do not have children, and the farther, more extreme you are, the more children you have. 7, 6, 7, 8, 9 children. You know what I mean? I mean, some of them, and those people were obviously to the outside of the norm of Israeli society, but they're extremely rabid. Those are the settlers that even the Israelis don't like. And there's a lot of I would suspect that a lot of liberal and left wing Israelis are either have one or zero children or are gay, because there's a lot of big gay culture there. And on the other hand, so the demographics over time have made Israel's, and I mean, if you've seen these people, they're literally crazier than in the craziest rednecks that you'd ever find in America. They look like kind of like them, but they're just absolutely off the wall nuts. But even the ones that aren't, that look like regular people that go out in the city and they interview them, going out to nightclubs and to restaurants and stuff like that, and they talk to young people and interview them, and like, yeah, we should kill every Arab. Of course we should.
Yes.
They're animals.
Yep.
Because just
Yep.
of over time, because of just the demographic shift, where like, most left-wing Israelis are now in their 70s and 80s. I mean, that's not really, that's just faded away. And that's what kept, it's almost what kept the conflict going, is because there was so much opposition to just ethnic cleansing and just the realpolitik, or the sort of Bronze Age solution of just slaughtering them all.
Yeah. Almost almost like 1800s colonialism. Yeah, so I mean, that's all bad, and I don't see that getting better. So we got to kind of start wrapping this up, but like this, I hope I've laid out the point that Trump is not any kind of anti-establishment guy, and there's going to be some good things and bad things, just like any politician. They're all fucking criminals and evil people and war criminals. And I think there's a real danger of, like, on the one hand, what he's doing with smashing through all the bureaucracy and stuff. It seems good now. Like, I'm on board, and I'm glad to see federal employees cry. Okay, and I'm glad to see.
Yeah, this has gotten me in trouble with a lot of people, because I live in a very federal government heavy state. So,
I bet you do. Yeah.
I have sometimes to just keep quiet, but yeah.
And I'm glad to see all that happen. But I also, you got to recognize like what happens when a strong man gets in there and expands the executive along with another oligarch that gets that much control over a federal government. Things can go real bad. So we need to be really cautious about our optimism with that. Is all I'm saying. Like, I hope that goes well, and I hope he makes a fucking deal with Ukraine and Russia. I really do.
I mean,
I want to stop I'm with him. I want to stop the killing. Okay,
I love deals. As a matter of fact, deals are great. You should make a perfect deal with them.
But just because they attack him doesn't mean he's some kind of savior. And I hope people realize that there is no political solution, really. But just because they attack him doesn't mean he's some kind of savior. It just means that they disagree with him around the margins, and that's all it takes for those people to try to take somebody out. That's it. Like, It doesn't. They'll take somebody out over nothing. They eat their own all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're ruthless, vicious people.
My parting thought on Trump is basically that I like to when it comes to him being an anti-establishment figure, I like to think of him as almost like a simulation, or like a simulacrum of simulation, let's say, of a. So people have always said, just in casual discussion among people, folk discussion, like, what if some regular Joe just got in there and started reforming shit? Well, there's no way to do that. There's a pipeline. There's a lifelong pipeline to becoming the president of the United States, for the most part. I mean, maybe Jimmy Carter or somebody might have not been their entire life, but there is a pipeline to becoming president of the United States. And Trump is a sort of unicorn figure, in that he had, net worth of a few $1 billion and some just insane levels of name recognition. He was a meme. He was literally a meme. He made himself by the real definition, like, he made himself a meme from the 1980s on. And so multiple generations knew exactly who Donald Trump was. He's been name dropping like hundreds of rap songs. Like, he has been on on TV and radio since before I was born. So you got this very unicorn situation, where this guy that is not exactly part of that establishment becomes the president. And yes, they disagree on the margins. He's not that far off the wall. His instincts are to be try to be accepted by the establishment and to be somewhat normal and mainstream. And he was like, he actually brought the Republican Party. He actually a moderate that brought the Republican Party to the center. Probably saved, but also not destroyed enough, in my opinion, but just basically destroyed the existing conservatives or whatever ideology of the Republican Party, made them moderate and populist and whatnot. Which is it? I'm not really a moderate centrist exactly in that point of terms, but I get I get hating the types of Republicans that dominated that section of politics for decades. But long story short, yeah, you got a unicorn situation of a guy with just unprecedented name recognition that decided to run for president and just was willing to do and say the things he did, sometimes seemingly unknowingly, sometimes seemingly very knowingly. He became the president, and we got to see what happened. And the first time, I guess they decided all to gang up against him because they like we were talking about. He threatened certain people that could do that. He threatened certain people in certain ways. It's not that it's not that he was how much of a threat he was. Like you can measure this one from 1 to 100, but he threatened certain people certain ways. But yeah, it's kind of concerning how much he's just able to get away with now that everybody's cool with it. It is kind of weird.
You know what might be a good way to think about this is, instead of thinking about it as establishment versus anti-establishment, think about it in terms of like old money versus nouveau riche, the new rich. So in some sense, Trump is
definitely precedents for that, multiple precedents for that in U.S. history.
Yeah. So Trump's just new rich and wants a seat at the table, and
always has been, by the way, like not accepted by the establishment. We listen to the same people, but like always has been like they've always turned their nose up at this guy.
He's gaudy and flashy and whatever, like he's new rich. He's not old money. So he's like, somebody in a trailer park that just won the lottery.
And he's not like that. He's not like that nouveau riche. Like he does come from some, but like he's
second generation money.
But he acts very, very nouveau. He acts more nouveau riche than the nouveau riche. I mean, he's
he's culturally nouveau riche. I don't mean necessarily like he's a self-made man.
Oh, very much culturally.
He's culturally a new rich guy,
almost like a parody of a rich guy. Well. Yeah, he's almost like a parody of a rich guy.
Yeah, and I think that's really kind of the difference here. It's not that he's substantively different. He's kind of gaudy and they don't like it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's as superficial as that, and he's got a couple of slightly different ways of going about things that some are better and some are worse. And, it's a fucking mixed bag, and it's not,
and he seems very,
a savior.
As a populist, he seems very
I don't see him as a populist even. Like, okay, maybe
I'm not trying to use that as a popular. I mean, but he is. He likes to please people, and he likes to please people. But he's very impressionable, and I gotta say, there's something you can kind of measure. I think sure. that worse people could have influence over him than apparently do in some cases. Not in all cases, like the Israel lobby, the Adelsons and stuff like that. But Elon Musk, not in love with that guy. I appreciate what he did with Twitter and nothing really else. I'm not really a consumer of anything else that Elon Musk does, as far as I know. But yeah.
Listen, last time he had Bannon, Exxon guys, and neoconservatives.
Yeah.
This time around, he's got the PayPal mafia and Sheldon Adelson. Okay, and I don't listen. You got to understand who Peter Thiel is, okay? That guy is basically the privatized CIA. You understand? Like, he makes tech for the CIA. Like, you want to talk about the global surveillance state? That's the fucking guy, okay? And that's the guy. That's who's in Trump's corner. Him, and his buddy Musk, and they funded JD Vance entirely. That's where JD Vance came from. Is all their money got funneled into fucking, and now Eric.
I wonder if
is going around those circles. Oh God, the guy from Blackwater. They're just trying to it's just this new private surveillance grid. That's what they're all for.
Do you think Elon Musk
The biggest,
I
you
mean,
mean
he's
Elon Musk, the biggest
he
weapon,
takes.
the biggest military contractor in the U.S. government,
Okay,
Elon
this
Musk.
just hit me though. Do you think that Elon Musk just kind of sort of is acts as a just all of his antics? I know a lot of it's genuine and he's just a weird guy, but it's kind of pathetic to be honest with you to be that wealthy and be, I mean, at least be like freaking Bezos or something. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Um, but for real though. But do you think that a lot of his antics? Do you think he's like he gets so much press? Do you think he's trying to take? Because this is something these do. This is something the Trump administration absolutely does. Whoops. Do you think he's trying? He's the decoy, or he is the like almost like acting like a court jester to take the eyes off the Teal, because you never hear about Teal. You never hear about
Yeah,
Teal in the media. Teal
yeah.
almost never shows up. I hear about Teal on my Twitter timeline for various reasons. I mean, but like you never hear about Teal in the mainstream media, so to speak.
Okay, so it's as simple as this. People like Elon and his antics, and he's very good at, stoking, I don't want to say controversy, but stoking attention. He's
Mm-hmm.
very good on social media.
To an extreme
He's
degree.
very good at getting people to like him. Have you ever listened to Peter Thiel talk? It's like
Can't say I
fucking
have.
listening to. I've listened to interviews with him. It's like listening to paint dry. He's not a very good like. What's the word? He's not good at like driving.
Or,
He's not getting any kind of passion or people to like him. Do you know what I'm saying? He's just like a very boring guy. But that's where he's definitely got a big fucking seat at this table, because he gave a lot of money to Trump. He funded JD Vance, and like fucking, like you wouldn't believe, he made JD Vance. So, and he's well connected. Him and Elon are good buddies. He's well connected to all these think tanks. Peter Thiel. You should listen to Whitney Webb on this. She breaks it all fucking down. She goes through all the money, all the dots, all the everything. He funded this. He gave money to this.
I've never heard of her, but I might have to do that.
Yeah. Google Whitney Webb and Peter Thiel, and believe me, you'll fucking find a whole lot about it. And it's the PayPal mafia. It's those fucking tech dudes who are all fucking real close to each other. And Peter Thiel's been fucking close to Musk for a long time. And he owns Palantir, which makes surveillance tech for the CIA. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what all that is about. And that's fucking that's way more dangerous than Biden or fucking Harris. Do you know what I mean? It's well, no, I wouldn't say way more, but it's as dangerous, but in a different way. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think so.
Way more power to tech oligarchs that I don't feel comfortable with. So
so maybe like a lot of things, like I don't agree that things are typically ups, because most people that think that really overestimate how much you can like make stuff happen. You can just willingly will things to happen, will people to all fall in line and do things to reach a common goal. But all that being said, yeah, so maybe Peter Thiel doesn't want to do any antics, so doesn't want, but I think they use that to his advantage, because you do not hear about this guy very much in the media at all. And you see Elon just, I get it. Maybe he's having a freaking crisis, or maybe he just likes being the richest guy in the world, but he does not need to be.
I think he's the front man. I think he's the guy.
He is the front man. He's definitely is.
I think he's the guy that people you're looking at Elon instead of looking at Trump. You're looking at Elon.
He may enjoy doing it.
Thiel, and he does.
He may be enjoying this. He may enjoy doing it, but I think you're totally right.
I think you have a misunderstanding of ops, though. Like I was listening to Scott Horton on a podcast with the dude Norm from the Comedy Cellar, and he was interviewing him, and Scott Horton called the Maidan Revolution a coup, and that U.S. orchestrated that coup. And Norm's like, "What? Do you think that these people didn't believe what they were out in the streets for? Do you think that the U.S. was like parachuting people in and totally?" And that goes to it's like just a complete misunderstanding of like what ops are. Like the CIA can't like create a thing out of whole cloth. They can't create a movement out of nothing. What they can do is they can infiltrate movements and steer them in one direction or another, or they can dump money into movements that they like, etc. And all I think it was some CIA guy that said, "Listen, covert ops operate best when all you do is just put a little bit in on the margins, and it makes the difference." So,
Yeah.
like, it's not like these things are people really believe these things, and they really support Musk, and there's people that really support Trump and all these things, but all you got to do is just put a little bit of money in the right places, and all of a sudden you just shift it just enough to where you want it to go.
No,
And
I
that
just think that the term psyop gets completely overused online. That's kind of the thing.
sure, yeah. But psyops
There's a
absolutely
vulgar
also exist.
there's a vulgar interpretation of what that means. You know what I mean?
Sure,
You get that a lot. So it's like, oh man, I don't want to use that term. I don't want to use the same term that you're seeing all over Twitter constantly.
sure. And also, like, psyops could also be like a real thing is happening, but it's presented in a way that serves somebody's interest. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
changes how people think about the thing that's happening. And if you put enough money in the right think tanks and the right articles, you can change, opinion to some degree. So, but no, I don't trust these guys as far as I can throw them. But I am happy to see federal employees cry, and I'm happy to see USAID get crushed. I just think, man, like some weird techno feudalism isn't better. Okay,
Yeah.
so things
Well, I'm
things
glad
could
to be
be
able to talk to you
drastically
about this.
change, and they could always get worse, and often things get worse when somebody comes in as a savior. That's when things get worse. When people are trying to fix things, make things better. That's when, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yep. Well, it'll definitely be an interesting 4 years, for sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna be an interesting and wild ride. And like I said, I think you're spot on about just how the establishment but has both fallen in line and also been kind of backing certain aspects, certain key people and groups or companies have been backing the kind of the Trump and Vance for quite a long time. I think that's quite true. I think people know about Teal, but it certainly I think Elon takes the shine off a lot of what else is lurking behind there. If you're not, if you're passively consuming the mainstream, if you're not someone who's getting a lot more varied sources or a lot more nuanced sources, I think it's all pretty much it's all Elon. And I think there is a level to which that it's genuine. He's a weird freaking guy that likes attention, and I think there's an extent to which it is intentional because one guy can absolutely pull off an op such as this.
Right.
It's one man op. It's quite literally easy to pull off.
Yeah. Well, we should stop it there. I got to get back to it, but yeah, we're back, or we're so back, as the kids say.
We're so back. Absolutely.
So yeah, we'll be look for us again, and we'll probably do this again next month or something. And then if there's any topics you guys want us to touch on, please hit us up on Sec Agora.
Please give us feedback now. Once you find out that we're back, please give us feedback. Let's interact with us. I want to talk to people. Try to get more involved with the community. Try to fire that back up and everything. And I definitely want to know what's on your mind. What directions might you want to see us go in? Because I've definitely evolved a lot in my views in a lot of ways. Like on the face of things, but like I'm also been the same guy since even before I feel like I was aware anywhere as much as now. I'm like I've kind of always felt like that actually. So it's a weird thing, but I've definitely shifted a lot in my like aesthetic choices and choice of language and stuff like that. But we're living in an ever changing world, and it's just don't get caught in the tide. Learn to be able to swim against it.
For real. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and everybody be excellent to each other, and peace.
Ciao.